We do need an intro thing, though, right?
Yeah. We should try to do something spooky for our
Yeah,
intro.
yeah.
Do you guys want to just make scary noises or something while I do the introduction?
Yeah.
Mine's a theremin.
Yeah. That's pretty good, right? Hi, welcome to Story Hole. I'm Ghost Roger.
I'm just normal Kevin.
I'm Zombie Joe.
What am I doing with all these ghouls and terrors?
You're too early. You need to wait till you die.
I listened to the last episode with Waldo in it, and it seems like you found yourself in the world of the nasty nasties.
Oh, I always
Dang.
wanted to be there.
Welcome.
So, in honor of All Hallows Eve, we're going to do a special campfire edition of the podcast. Do you guys want to join me by the campfire?
Yeah.
I'm already here, baby.
And at this point, I'm going to add like cool sound effects to really create the ambiance, you know? Okay.
Yeah, that's good.
Perfect. Okay.
Anybody bring marshmallows?
I brought just the marshmallows out of a Count Chocula box of cereal. Does that work?
Perfect.
Yeah.
I don't know. Let's try. Nope.
Nope. Definitely not. On today's episode, we're going to do something a little different. We've each brought a spooky story to share with each other around the campfire. Stories about the occult and the mysterious. Things that are really going to scare your socks off, right?
Can you be, so we're going to take turns here, but can you please put your socks back on after each one of ours so that we all get the chance to
Yeah, with fresh feet.
scare your socks off?
Yeah, because if I go first, I'm definitely going to scare at least one sock off.
Yeah.
And then I got nothing to scare.
Great. Okay, so welcome to Halloween Story Hole. Is there something better we can call it than Halloween Story Hole?
Story Ghoul.
Okay, that's very good. All right. Okay, guys. Welcome to Story Ghoul. Cool.
That's fucking terrible. Hey, Roger, I hear you have a story that's going to scare the pants out of me. Can you help me out?
I get, yeah.
These pants, they're very tight, and I'm just trying
Let
to...
me give this a shot then. You ready? Mm-hmm. Okay, for my campfire story, I wanted to bring some kind of true account of what I consider to be like probably the scariest type of experience you can have with the supernatural. And for me, when it comes to ghosts and monsters and evil things, I think it really comes down to where the encounter takes place, all right? Because there's places where you could see a ghost where it probably wouldn't be all that scary at all right?
Walmart.
Yeah, like Walmart. I was thinking like a Chipotle is probably it's probably the least scary place to see a ghost, right?
Yeah.
Walmart's definitely up there though.
Hey, but can I say, a Walmart that had like a Chipotle in it, if you were working the night shift, I bet you that Chipotle at Walmart could be kind of scary.
That's actually a good point. If it's
Oh, yeah. I want to take mine back because Walmart at night would probably be terrifying.
But Chipotle though, I think we can all agree is
Yeah, but Chipotle is fine.
there's nothing scary about that at all. You know, that's not going
Yeah.
to keep you up at night. Yeah, and like I would
Yeah.
want to see a ghost at a Chipotle.
It's just so filling. It's so great and fresh, and they, if you're looking for a sponsor,
Get at us, Chipotle. Hey, do you guys remember when we kept winning free Chipotle every week?
oh my God, I forgot about that. But how could I?
There was a time when you went to Chipotle, you could put like a business card in a fishbowl, and then every week they'd pull out one of the business cards, and if it was yours, you would get free Chipotle for you and 10 friends. So we just kept going and stuffing the bowl with cards, and we won like week after week. We had like probably 3 or 4 months of free Chipotle every week.
Yeah, but you could bring 10 friends or
10
something
friends,
like
yeah.
that. So
Yeah.
we just kept going and bringing 10 friends every week. It was great.
Man, I hate Chipotle though. It's the worst.
That does sound like a be careful what you wish for kind of thing. Like,
Totally. That's a monkey
Yeah.
paw situation for sure. Yeah.
Wait, is this the story? Is this the scary story?
yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Okay, no. Okay. Yeah, let's leave this Chipotle behind. So if it's not in a Chipotle, what do you guys consider to be the worst place that you could have some kind of supernatural encounter? What's the scariest location?
Bathroom.
Bathroom, yeah.
Well, I mean, jokes aside, Bloody Mary in the mirror.
Yeah, no, exactly. That's exactly what I was going to say. I feel like having something in your house is the worst place to have some kind of supernatural event.
Yeah, it's your safe spot.
It's your safe
Right.
spot,
Makes
right?
sense.
Like I don't want to
Yeah.
see anything scary in my home ever. Like, imagine waking up and seeing something just watching
Yeah.
you from the corner of your bedroom. Or what I always think about actually is when I'm leaving the house in the morning for work, it's still dark outside. And I always kind of think in the back of my mind, like what if I just turn around and take a glance back at the house and just imagine if there was something looking back out at me from inside, from my bedroom window, if there's some kind of just dark figure or like a rotten face in the window that's inside the house that I was just in. That's terrifying. I hate that because I could just never relax after that. I'd never feel safe.
Yeah.
Man, I wish that I had known that.
When we lived together.
That would have been great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That'd be terrible.
Oh, I thought about, because Roger's car is a fancy car and has one of those rear view.
It's a limousine.
It's a limousine, and the far back part there's a camera, and you can see when you're backing up. And I thought about trying to figure out where that camera is and putting like a little alien on there or something.
You did hide an alien head in our house one time. Remember that, Joey?
Yeah, I also wanted to hide an actual cardboard cutout alien in your new house's backyard. But they're about $40.
That's too expensive. Yeah. So that's why I think stories of haunted houses, like ghosts and evil spirits in people's homes, are definitely the worst. So I was looking into real accounts of that happening. People that have supernatural experiences in their homes, and I stumbled upon something that isn't a ghost, but still haunts your house and makes you feel that same kind of like vulnerability. It's a thing called a boggart.
Boggart.
Do you guys know what a boggart is? You ever heard of a boggart?
No. Never heard of it.
Most accounts of boggarts start in like the mid 19th century in England, and they typically go something like this. You'll be sitting by yourself at home, just kind of enjoying a quiet moment alone. And just to make the story more immersive, let's set the scene. Joey, Kev, what are you guys doing in this quiet moment at home?
I'm watching my dog as he's resting on the couch in the living room. We're in the dark because I like it better. I'm relaxing. He's just he's breathing, yeah. Just making sure he's breathing.
I have a super soaker, and I'm just trying to blast some cans.
Okay, good. So Joey, you're just checking to make sure your dog's breathing, and Kev, you're blasting.
Getting wet and wild.
Yeah, getting wet and wild. Yeah. Now, just by chance, you happen to look up, and you look down a hall maybe, or through a doorway or something, and your eye catches a shape that shouldn't be there. It's the figure of a man just kind of sneaking a peek at you around the corner or from the end of the hall or something.
Ugh.
And you might...
I'm armed and ready.
Yeah, it's true. Do you blast him with the water?
I blast him right away.
He just takes it. He doesn't even move. The water just splashes his face, and he's just expressionless, just staring at you.
Oh, God, that's the worst.
And at first you think that, maybe it's like a home invasion, maybe it's a burglar or something, but when you get a good look at it, you realize that it can't be human because the proportions are all wrong. For one, it's way too short. It's like only 3 feet tall. And, and its arms are a little too long. Its arms stretch down past its knees.
They're 4 feet tall.
And its skin is leathery and old. And its face is just this big, gross mess with these giant eyes and patches of long, stringy hair. So you realize that that's no man. It's something else. And it's just watching you. And after a minute, it casually moves out of your line of sight and walks into a different room. Got some bad news, guys. You've got a house boggart. I feel like it kind of sounds like a Harry Potter Dobby situation.
I was thinking that. I was like, you should just give him a sock.
Yeah, it's not. Boggarts are malicious and intense. A boggart will kill you. Luckily,
Not me.
Luckily, though, if you have a boggart in your house, like you two do, it's a house boggart. And a house boggart isn't typically going to murder somebody. It'll hurt you and it'll torment you, but you probably won't die.
What kind of boggarts do kill you?
Outside boggarts that don't live in houses. If you run into a boggart on the road or in the countryside, they'll murder you and they'll drag your body into dark little holes.
Jesus.
So in a way, you're kind of lucky. I mean, you just have a house boggart, so you're going to survive, but it's going to be miserable. So say that night, you force yourself to go to bed, right? You've just seen this gross thing, but you're going to avoid looking around too much because you don't want to risk maybe spotting it again. Mm-hmm. And you just lay down in bed and you force yourself to fall asleep. And when you do, a cabinet door or maybe the closet slowly creaks open. And that gross little leathery man creeps out and he slides under the covers at your feet and slowly wiggles his way up to your face.
Oh
No,
God.
you can't do that. Get out of here.
And then he just gently lays his cold, sweaty, clammy hands on your cheeks and just sits there all night, just letting his stink and his sweat just saturate your skin while you sleep.
You know what you do, baby? I got a perfect built-in defense to this.
What you got?
I know that I'm so much sweatier than him because I've had hydrosis. I'm going to rub my sweat hands on his face. Take that,
Yeah.
motherfucker.
You're sweatier and stinkier than he is.
Turns out he was just looking for someone to love. That's why he was so frustrated, and you're the perfect match.
It's true.
Wait, so in this situation, I'm looking around my room right now. I'm looking for boggart holes. Oh, I can see one behind. If I just left all my closets open and I don't, my bed isn't on one of those like little a normal adult stand thing. It's just on the box spring.
Yeah.
Am I good?
Nope.
Like, will it just?
He'll find somewhere to creep around for sure. He doesn't even care if you see him either. So we'll get there.
Oh God, I hate this.
So the next morning you wake up and you don't really know what happened. You don't know that his gross little hands were all over you all night, but you just feel awful. You just feel gross and wrong. So you figure you got to start your morning off right. You're going to pour yourself a big bowl of cereal. What kind of cereal are you guys going to eat?
Lucky Charms.
Okay.
Oh, wait, no. Tricks.
Tricks.
Yeah,
I want O's. Have you ever had O's? They cut your mouth, but they're so good.
O's?
They're just called O's. They come in a yellow box.
I think you're thinking of Cheerios, Joey.
No. They're just called O's. O-H apostrophe S. This is not a joke.
That's some kind of obscure artisan cereal, huh?
That's the only thing I like that's fancy in my life. I don't care about anything else, but give me that good cereal.
Okay, so Kev, you sit down to a nice big bowl of Tricks. Joe, you sit down to your artisan O's, and as you pour the milk into the bowl, it comes out of the carton just a rotten, chunky mess.
Man.
But you just bought that milk yesterday; it's brand new.
Oh.
Once you've got a house boggart, all your milk is always going to instantly churn and rot the second you bring it inside.
I'll just have my cereal outside then.
But I mean, where are you going to keep your milk? You're going to keep your milk outside?
No way, dude, because an outside bar is probably going to piss in it.
That's true, yeah.
Oh, you got to get soy milk because that's not going to coagulate.
Yeah, actually, that's a good point. Yeah.
That's why there's a lot of vegans.
Yeah,
and
boggarts don't haunt vegans. That's true.
Mm-hmm.
So at this point, your boggart is still pretty subtle and shy, though. He's kind of messing with you a little bit, but he's not being too bold. As he gets more comfortable, though, he's going to start really being a more constant physical presence in your life. Like you'll open a cabinet, and he'll just be in there waiting for you, just sitting there and looking at you. Or you look under your bed, and he's crouched underneath, and his gross little deformed body is just looking at you. And he's not going to do anything. He's not going to attack you. But no matter how many times you see him, just the sight of him is so disturbing. Like you're never prepared. And then you start to invite people over. Maybe you have a party at your house, and everybody's talking and laughing. Kevin, maybe you just told a really good joke about Al Qaeda or something. You know that Al Qaeda joke you love so much?
My staple, yeah.
Yeah. So, and everyone's loving it. Everyone's just erupting in laughter, and you're having a great time. And suddenly, it gets a lot less fun for you because through all the noise of your friends laughing and having a great time and talking, you'll be able to make out the gross, shrill sound of the boggart laughing too and mocking you. And you look over and you just catch a glimpse of him in some faraway corner of the house just watching. So you start to leave the house more and more. Just to get away. You can't handle the constant presence of that gross little man. But now when you come home, he's trashed your house. All your junk is broken. Joey, he took all your Yu-Gi-Oh cards out of their protective sleeves.
No, Blue Eyes White Dragon.
Yeah. Kev, he nailed some ham to your walls. It's just it's a real mess. Every time you go out, when you come home, it's just a disaster. And at this point, he steps up his night game too. While you're fast asleep in the middle of the night, he's not just rubbing his gross little clammy hands on your face anymore. Now when you wake up, you feel his hot little mouth on your foot, sucking on your toes.
Oh. God damn it, Roger. You know I'm afraid of everything. I'm afraid of everything already. God damn it. I didn't have this one before.
And eventually, he gets a little bit more bold, and he starts to nibble on him a little bit. And he likes to taste your blood. He's not going to suck your blood, but he just wants to get a taste of it. And there's nothing you can do. There's accounts of people that have house boggarts and they've tried to move away to different houses, and no luck. It just comes with them. So it's pretty much hopeless. Like, that's your life now. You just have to accept it. There are some preemptive things you can do to try to prevent a boggart from coming in, though. Horseshoes, if you put a horseshoe above your door, that's supposed to help. Rings of salt, you can put salt rings around the windows and the entryways, and that can help too. And also, since a boggart is a real thing, it's a physical being. It's not like a ghost or some kind of phantom. You can hurt it. You can try to kill it if you want.
Yes.
You guys have a plan for how to kill your boggart?
Yeah. This whole time I've been thinking about that. Because if I see this creep, this fucking pervert, he comes up to me, he's all sloppy and slimy, and he's crawling towards me with his dead face. I'm just going to grab a hammer.
Yeah.
motherfucker, clam.
Bad news, he's got a shield.
Yeah. So in other words, easy one shot, he's out.
Yeah. Kev, what are you gonna do?
I don't know that we really need to get all that creative with this. I'll probably just get a gun.
Yeah, that's probably the best way to do it.
Just shoot him with a gun.
I was thinking maybe I put poison on my toes and just let him suck it off, you know?
What poisons a boggart?
Oh, that's a good point. I don't know.
Well, I mean, I haven't looked in the poison aisle way very often, but maybe there's just boggart poison.
Yeah, next to like rat poison.
Yeah. What if you tried to shoot at him and then he pulled up a PVC pipe that had
like a
two
U?
little curves? Yeah, like a U in it.
Yeah. Boom. You just shot yourself, idiot.
Yeah.
Well, I died doing what I love.
Okay, let's say you get lucky. He doesn't have a U pipe. He doesn't have a shield, and you guys kill him, so he's dead. From what I've read, you still have a problem on your hands. There's an account from 1850 of a famous boggart known as the Gristlehurst boggart. And it's in a town in the British countryside called Haywood. And in Haywood, a family of farmers were being terrorized by the Gristlehurst boggart. He was sucking their toes and breaking their stuff and the whole thing. So being tough farmers, they trapped him and they killed him. They held him down and they drove a stake through his chest. And he was dead. Ooh. So to dispose of his gross little body, they buried him under an ash tree. And the hope was that the roots of the tree would keep him underground and he wouldn't come back to haunt anybody else. But it didn't work. The farmer's wife reported the next night hearing screaming outside their windows at all hours. And when she'd look outside, she'd see the face of the boggart looking in from the shadows. Or she'd see a shadowy figure jumping around outside holding candles with blue flames. And these accounts are like not just straight folklore. There's legitimate journalistic records of this happening. In 1850, there's a respected author named Edwin Waugh, and he wrote for the Manchester newspaper, which was a notable source of news at the time. And he went out and he interviewed all these people, and he has records of all these events happening. And you might feel like all that stuff seems pretty distant, right? You know, it's all like, it's 1850, it's in England, nobody hears about boggarts now. There's no people in our modern society claiming that they've been terrorized by a boggart. It just seems so obscure that it's probably not a real threat.
I think we're probably safe, though, as Americans, because we're all like cowboys. So we have those horseshoes above our doors everywhere. So
that's true. We do.
No problem here.
Yep. Us here in Southern California, I have a horseshoe above one door and a surfboard above the other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Surf and turf.
Surf and turd. But that's it's not true. You know, boggarts are very much still a real threat. They're actually one of the most commonly referenced monsters in our culture still. Because think about what a boggart is. It's a weird, gross, kind of human-esque figure that hides in your closet or under your bed and terrorizes you in your sleep. What does that sound like?
Every child's nightmare?
Every child's nightmare, which is...
the boogeyman.
It's the boogeyman. The concept of the boogeyman, which is like the most typical childhood nightmare figure in the Western world, right? It's a boggart.
Boggart,
The name
man.
shifted over time and from place to place. In Scotland, they called boggarts boggles, which turned into bogies and then into the bogeyman. And then when it made its way to the U.S., it became the boogeyman.
It's a wild game of telephone you got there.
So if a child is scared of the boogeyman, there's a chance that you have a house boggart and it's just terrorizing your kid. So it's a pretty legitimate concern. Also, as a side note, if you're a Harry Potter fan, we mentioned Dobby a minute ago. Do you guys remember I think it's in The Prisoner of Azkaban, when the students are taking the Defense Against the Dark Arts class and they have to go in front of that cabinet and a creature comes out that is it transforms into the embodiment of their worst fear?
Yeah.
Those are boggarts. They call them boggarts in that world.
Oh.
And it's a reference to this kind of folklore figure, the origin of the boogeyman. It's kind of cool, huh?
That is cool.
All right, so let me get a measure. How many socks do you have on still?
Oh, I have none.
Yeah, mine are gone.
Yeah, all right.
I am very sweaty,
They just slipped right off. Huh?
but maybe that's my a defense mechanism. I'm definitely more of a flight kind of guy, but that's my fight coming out in case the sweaty hands come at me. I can goose him up real good. I'm gonna grease him up and just gander.
So I was going to go next, and after hearing Roger's story, I know that mine isn't going to measure up to the whole scary factor on that. But please do put your socks back on, just in case I do have this
I'm going to put
wrong.
on 2 pairs of socks just in case.
Thank you. Yeah. I'm going to consider this more of a palate cleanser, maybe. So we talked about this last week, and we were kind of it took a week to brainstorm how we might tackle this October thing. And I was trying to figure out, like, what's the most epitomous Halloween creature or character? What do you think is like the thing that represents Halloween the most in your mind?
To me, it's just a ghost. Yeah,
Ghost is
just
definitely
ghost.
good.
You got your vampire, your pumpkinhead man.
Pumpkinhead man. Yeah.
Pumpkins, jack-o'-lanterns.
Maybe
yeah.
like a slutty nurse.
This is scary. I was trying to come up with an answer to that question, and I thought that it would be witches. I
Yeah,
thought that witches
totally.
would be like
Yeah, I
the
agree.
epitomous Halloween thing. But I don't want to just talk about any witches or witches in general. I want to talk about the witch. When you picture a witch, what do you see?
She's
Just-
green,
She's green, classic black hat.
pointy nose with a wart
broomstick.
on it.
Uh-huh.
She's
Maybe a
smiling.
cauldron. Yeah, she's smiling. She's got like just like a gross tooth sticking straight out.
Like that.
Whoa, that's good, man. You're
Yeah.
like part witch.
That's our modern culture's representation of a witch, pretty much. And that's pretty much from the Weird Sisters from Shakespeare's Macbeth. The
Oh,
Weird
cool.
Sisters, they start off the play. They're just called the Weird Sisters. They're not called witches, but that kind of is where our modern image of a witch came from. But Shakespeare wasn't the first person to come up with an old, gnarled woman who could cast spells with the eye of a newt or like a rat's right toe or something like that. There were witches way before then in folklore and mythology. And one of the oldest representations of this cultural icon was the Baba Yaga.
Yeah, I love the Baba Yaga.
The Baba Yaga is the subject of many Russian folktales intended to scare children, predominantly. She's also been mentioned in several modern media, though. And Roger, I suspect this is not the first time you've heard of it, not only because you just said it, but because of some of your interests.
Yeah.
Do you know which one I'm referring to?
She's a character in Hellboy. If you
Yeah.
read the Hellboy comic, she's in that. She also, this is more obscure, but if you played like King's Quest, this like 1990s Sierra game, the Baba Yaga was in that. That's the first time I was introduced to her. Yeah,
I can
she's
picture
great.
her in that game. I just never, she just looked like a general witch to me, but that totally makes sense. That's the Baba Yaga.
Yeah.
She's also referenced in John Wick. They call him the Baba Yaga,
Oh, yeah.
which is not appropriate because they call him essentially it's supposed to be synonymous with a boogeyman, and that's not
Yeah.
what she is. And then in the second Ant-Man movie, there's a Russian character in that security firm that they have that calls the main antagonist the Baba Yaga. He's totally spooked by her. So it's in a lot of stuff. Ant-Man and John Wick do a poor job of describing who she is or staying true to her source material, while Hellboy is a much more accurate representation of what she actually is. She's an old, tall, skinny woman who delights in eating children and lives in the deepest, darkest parts of the woods. She has magic powers, which you would expect, and she can fly around in a bucket, chasing down anyone brazen enough to journey near her house.
It's like Bowser.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
She scoops them up into her bucket and she takes them home and then she cooks them and eats them.
Does she cook them straight in that bucket?
No.
Is that like her slop bucket?
So technically, it's not a bucket; it's a mortar, and she has like a pestle to
knock them in there.
steer it.
Oh.
So I imagine maybe she grinds them up in there, maybe, and then
I bet
pours
you
them into.
she
cauldron.
stops by 7-Eleven, gets a bunch of straws, and smushes them into each other. So you get one really long straw, and try to suck up the kid.
Just sucks.
One whole child. So another thing about her, she carries a broom and she sweeps behind her as she flies, which is kind of a weird thing. So she's always got a broom behind her, sweeping away, so that she can get rid of any tracks or evidence of where she's been or where she's going. And she actually kind of seems very concerned with people being able to find her, because she not only does that, but her house has 2 giant chicken legs that can sprout out and chase after people or run away.
That's so cool.
Yeah. So that's the Baba Yaga, but I thought I would also tell her most famous child's tale.
Is it Hansel and Gretel?
I think Hansel and Gretel is based on the Baba Yaga.
Cool.
And a lot of other things seem to be too. Our story starts out, there was a girl who lived happily with her mother and father, and we'll call her Fran for this. Fran was a beautiful girl in both image and character, and everybody loved her. But one day, Fran's mother fell deadly ill. To console her daughter, the mother gave Fran a doll. It wasn't a particularly beautiful doll, but Fran loved it. The mother told Fran that if she fed the doll a biscuit and a glass of milk every night, the doll would never let anything bad happen to her. Fran did this. She fed the doll every night. But shortly after that, her mother passed away. For a while, Fran and her father were together alone for a time, but then her father decided to remarry. He ended up marrying a woman with 2 other daughters around the same age as Fran, and Fran was very welcoming to her new family members, but they did not return the affection. In fact, the stepmother would whisper to her every night, right before bed that as soon as her father wasn't around, she would find a way to get rid of Fran.
Whoa.
Yeah, pretty harsh.
Classic evil stepmother, huh?
Uh-huh. One day, Fran's dad needed to take a long journey for work, and Fran begged and begged for him to take her with him, but he said she wouldn't know what to do with herself and she should just stay home. The moment the father left, the stepmother gathered all the girls together and said, "Let's make this place extra nice and clean so that when your dad comes home, he'll be super happy. I will assign each of us one task." And the stepmother assigns her daughters the task of doing the laundry and sweeping the floors. But for Fran, she said that she needs to go get a light to light up the room from Baba Yaga and bring it home. And this particular village was very familiar with the dealings of Baba Yaga, and everybody knew that you didn't go mess with her unless you were very desperate. But Fran was pushed out the door before she could utter even one protest. She was so afraid, she asked her doll what she should do. And to her surprise, the doll responded and said, "Be brave and everything will be all right." So she took the doll's advice, and she started on her journey to Baba Yaga. I think I would probably listen to a doll too if it
That
talked
seems like
at me, right?
that's some bad advice, though, right?
It's not the best.
If it's a doll talking though, then maybe there's something there. But also, what she should just go hang out in the woods, come back in 2 hours, and be like, "Oh, sorry, she's all sold out."
Yeah. If a doll talked to you, you definitely wouldn't take its advice. You're automatically going to assume that the doll is bad, right?
I mean, I would, except for the fact that I did just ask this doll for
That's
advice.
true. And I have been feeding it biscuits my whole life.
Right,
So I guess
and
it's true.
and the memory of your mother was always to take care of this doll. Maybe your mom knew
Yeah,
something.
that's true.
Yeah,
Okay, you're
yeah.
right.
I
Okay, I'm
trust
going to
this
do
doll.
it.
I trust this
I
doll.
trust it too. Yeah.
So while walking on a narrow path in the woods, Fran heard some galloping behind her, and she turned around just in time to move out of the way of a horseman with a bright white cloak. Some time passes, and she hears galloping again, but this time it was a horseman with a dazzling red cloak that streaked past her. She thought it was strange to see two horsemen this deep in the woods with such nice cloaks, but she continued on. A little bit later, she hears hoof prints again, and a third horseman rides by, this time with a sparkling pitch-black cloak. She was frightened by these confusing events, but her doll told her once more, "Be brave and everything will be all right." A short time later, she arrives at a clearing with a shack at the center of a circular bone picket fence. The moment she steps into the clearing, the house sprouts 2 long chicken legs, and the house walks over to her and leans down as if to look her deep in the eyes.
Ooh.
After a few moments, the door slowly creaks open, and a tall, skinny, gnarled old woman walks out. "What are you doing so far out in these woods, young lady?" the woman
That's a
asks.
good Baba Yaga impression. It's very good.
Fran is so scared, but she manages to utter that she's looking for Baba Yaga so that she could have a light for her stepmother. The old woman responds, "I am Baba Yaga, and I will give you the light you need, but you must do something for me first. I have 3 chores that I need done, and if
Oh,
you're
I know
able to
what they are.
What are
What
they?
What are they? It's sweeping. It's what's the other one? Sweeping something and getting a light.
No, Joey. That would be a really clever way to do this story, but it's not. It's not that, unfortunately. Baba Yaga says she has 3 chores that she needs to be done, and then she continues to say that if she completes them, she'll give her the light. Fran's fears begin to subside. That sounds like a perfectly reasonable request. However, Baba Yaga continues, "But if you cannot complete my chores, I will eat you as compensation. Do we have a deal?" Baba Yaga's ultimatum revived Fran's fears in full force. But she remembers the words of the doll, "Be brave and everything will be okay," so she agrees. Baba Yaga says, "Great, come on in. She'll make a bed and we'll start in the morning." So they both go to sleep. And the next morning, Baba Yaga hands a pot to Fran and says, "I want these for dinner, but I hate the black ones. Separate all of them out while I'm gone, and I will consider that your first chore." Fran agrees and Baba Yaga leaves. When Fran looks into the pot, her heart sinks. There must be millions in there.
Millions of what?
Millions of the beans.
Oh, there's beans in there?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, I might have missed that
Let me
part.
check and make sure I said that. "I want these for dinner, but I hate the black ones." No, I didn't.
Are you talking about people? She hates the black people.
I was just thinking of bugs. I was like, oh, it must be
Yeah,
a roach.
gross.
So they both go to sleep, and the next morning, Baba Yaga hands a pot of beans to Fran and says, "I want these for dinner, but I hate the black ones. Separate all of them out for me while I'm gone, and I will consider that your first chore."
That's a ridiculous chore, though, because black beans are by far the best beans, right?
Not for Baba Yagas.
Yeah. I guess me and her have nothing in common.
I prefer pintos.
Dude, garbanzo. You kidding me?
Yeah, Joe, you're a bonzo man for sure. Yeah.
Fran agrees, and Baba
Hey,
Yaga
I'm sorry to
leaves.
interrupt again, but I have to. So at our work, Joey and I are teachers at the same school, and in the cafeteria they have a burrito day where they have like a burrito bar. And Joey gets his burrito, and then he goes to the salad bar area to get some garbanzo beans and slides those into his burrito.
What?
That's disgusting, right?
Hey, let's make this very, very clear. Although the setup is also used as a salad bar, that's a topping bar for your burrito. And
There's no way that they intended those garbanzo beans to go in.
well, they don't
anybody's
have
burrito.
lettuce there. They just have like it's like corn and like
That's not the same. Garbanzo's not a replacement for a lettuce. You
no,
insane man.
No. But what I'm saying is that that's not a salad bar that I'm pulling. I'm not like sneaking to the salad bar and taking them off. That little bar is clearly for condiments and extra things you put on your burrito. Why not put a garbanzo bean on a burrito?
Okay.
That's pretty nuts.
Okay, go ahead, Kevin. Sorry, I just had to get that off my chest.
So Fran agrees and Baba Yaga leaves. When Fran looks into the pot, her heart sinks. There must be millions of beans in there. It would be impossible to sort them all out in time. But she gets started anyways. After a few hours, she hears a noise from outside. Afraid that Baba Yaga is back early, Fran looks out the door, but what she sees is not Baba Yaga. It's the horseman from the day before, the one with the white cloak. The horseman looks up to Fran and she hears a noise behind her. She turns around and she sees that all the beans had been sorted out into 2 clean piles. Not wanting to look a gift horseman in the mouth, Fran accepts the fortunate coincidence and awaits for Baba Yaga to come home. When Baba Yaga arrives, she is surprised to see that Fran had accomplished her task, but she is not swayed. She says, "Wonderful, you're a hard worker. Maybe I won't eat you after all. Tomorrow, you will need to fill the pot to boil them with fresh spring water." And Baba Yaga hands Fran a pot. They both go to sleep, and when Fran wakes up, Baba Yaga isn't there. Fran's a diligent person, so she immediately starts on her task. But she quickly realizes that what Baba Yaga gave her was not actually a bucket, but a sieve. The water pours completely out of the bucket before she can get it into the pot. Defeated, Fran asks her doll for help, and the doll says not to worry, for Baba Yaga cannot tell a lie, and she will stay true to her deal. Fran just needs to stay brave and everything will be alright. Almost immediately after that conversation, Fran hears some splashing in the spring. It's the second horseman with the dazzling red cloak. He snatches the sieve from Fran, fills it with water, and chucks it into the house through an open window. Confused, Fran runs back inside and sees that the pot is suddenly completely full of fresh water.
Man, what a hero.
Yeah, these guys are great. Baba Yaga comes home to find the pot full and is annoyed. "You're a hard worker," she says with frustration. "Your final task will be to count the stars in the sky. But if you're wrong by 1 star, I will eat you tomorrow for supper in this wonderful bean soup you helped me make." While lying in bed, Fran begins to count, but she's struggling. Every time she gets around 100 or so, she loses track of what she's already counted. As she's just about to give up, there's a noise from outside. It was a sparkling black-cloaked horseman, and he leans in through the window to whisper in her ear. He tells her the exact number of stars in the sky. The next morning, Baba Yaga skips into Fran's room and insists Fran give her her answer. Fran says the number of the horseman gave her.
What's the number?
So it's 24. That hit TV show. It's the star and the sky.
Jack Bauer's here, and he's ready to give you the answer to all the stars.
Jack Bauer was the horseman the whole time.
Listen here, little girl. The answer's 24.
It's always 24. Fran says the number the horseman gave her, and Baba Yaga immediately becomes furious. "How could you possibly know that?" she screeches. Fran explains about the horseman, and Baba Yaga calms down. She says, "I figured day and evening helped you with the other chores, but night helped too? You must be one with the universe. A deal is a deal." And she hands Fran a skull with a light in it. "Take this to your stepmother." Fran immediately runs back home and bursts into the house, exclaiming that she had gotten the light that they needed. The moment she got inside, the light illuminates the room, and both stepmother and daughters are instantly turned to ash.
Whoa, what?
Sweet.
Yeah. Yeah.
Holy shit.
With her stepfamily gone, Fran went to stay with another family member in the village until her father got home. When he did get home, she explained everything that had happened, and he believes her. He knows about Baba Yaga, and if his wife sent Fran to her, she's no wife of his. He decides to devote himself to his daughter rather than look for another spouse, and they live happily ever after.
I like that he decided that she wasn't the wife for him, but also she's a pile of ashes now.
Yeah, just sit there.
It's kind of off the table. Yeah,
We can make
I
this
didn't like her
work.
anyway. I think I'm gonna divorce her.
You probably put like water on her and try to sculpt her back up into a ash wife.
So the hunks in the forest were the personifications of day and night.
Jack Bauer.
And Jack Bauer?
Yeah.
That's crazy. Oh, cool. I like that. I like that story. Man, I love the Baba Yaga. I think all those legends are really cool.
Yeah, she's really neat. I like that she sometimes is like a scary thing and sometimes she's a helpful thing.
Uh-huh. And I just love her house on chicken legs. I think is so neat.
Yeah, it's really
Yeah.
cool.
I was thinking when the Baba Yaga told her that she was going to have to do chores, I was thinking maybe one of the chores is, I bet that house poops, you know?
Oh, for sure. Or lays a giant house egg.
Uh-huh.
Like little mailboxes. Little mailboxes come out of it.
Yeah. That's where mailboxes come from. That's a good story. I like that story.
Yeah, it's good.
Cool.
My socks are off my feet and they're on my hands somehow. So I don't know what that means.
No, it's Roger's sock. Yeah.
Yuck.
Are you guys ready for my spooky tale?
I'm ready for
Yeah.
it.
All right, so I was digging around. I was trying to find something to tell you guys, and I really wanted to lean into the idea of telling you a story. So far, I think in the podcast, I've been kind of just like looking up weird things and talking about them. But I found a story that was written in the 1930s by a man named Robert E. Howard, and it's called "Pigeons from Hell." And it's a short, it's a short Southern Gothic story that was originally a retelling of an old ghost story from his grandmother, and he wrote it, and it got kind of famous and stuff. So. We'll just jump in. I do want
ready.
to say this because it was written in the 1930s and it takes place on a deserted plantation. A lot of the terms they use in the real story are like kind of racist and stuff. So, mine's a rewritten, abridged version with less racism.
Okay, cool.
Cool. All right. So, our story opens up with two bickering brothers, Griswell and John Branner, lost in the brush of the South. John took a shortcut, now with a depleted gas tank and thinning patience. Griswell's annoyed and stubborn demeanor has a presence as thick as the humid air surrounding them. They agree to stop and set up a place to stay for the night, pulling up to an old plantation house. John convinces his reluctant sibling to grab their bedrolls and get some sleep by the abandoned mansion. As they walk toward the house's entranceway, an eruption of pigeons engulf John in a cacophony of kuruk-tukus and plumage. The encounter is noisy, but brief, and does little more than shock John initially. However, when Griswold suggests that they collect firewood to light up their lost camp, our newly shaken John takes on the stubborn role and conveniently points out there are loose hinges on the mansion's front door. The duo heads inside, greeted only by a thick layer of dust. They sit down and get some rest until Griswold is awoken by an eerie dream of a man watching him atop a staircase with a yellow, gaunt and jaundiced face, drooping and vacantly observing him,
Gross.
accompanied only by the strange whistling sound. Griswold mentions this dream aloud to John, who does not respond. In fact, John isn't where he should be. As panic grows on Griswold's voice, he calls out to his brother, only to be reassured that John is still there by his side, with a now bloody and cracked skull
Oh, shit.
and a hatchet in his hand.
Oh, no.
John is steadily but slowly advancing on Griswold, non-responsive to his brother's pleas. Griswold Branner sprints out the door into the wilderness to the point of exhaustion. He is awoken for the second time this night, with another man looming above him.
Son, what are you doing out here?
It's the county sheriff, stern, confident, and well aware that this disheveled young man is not part of his town. Griswold immediately blurts out detailed descriptions of what he encountered, gaining certainty that his alleged nightmare was in fact an observation. He knows what he saw: brains, clotted blood, pus oozing from his brother's freshly damaged head. His rambles and stutters are not quieted by the officer, but rather Griswold stops himself and says aloud that he knows how crazy this cop thinks he is, to which the sheriff responds,
I don't know what to think. If it was any other place than that old Blassonville Manor.
Grizz whimpers in response, "We have to find John's body." The sheriff introduces himself as Sheriff Buckner and insists they go immediately, if Griswold is up for it. The new duo head back to the mansion. While Griswold recounts the events of the night, they head up the walkway, and he mentions a flock, or rather flight, of pigeons. Buckner interrupts.
I've been around these parts, Blassonville Manor, at all hours for years. I ain't never seen no pigeons. Not here, nor anywhere else in these woods.
"But there were scores of them," Grizz cries. Come to think of it, there was one time the sheriff could recall seeing pigeons. 12 years prior, a wanderer set up a vagrant camp. Buckner saw the man stroll into town to retrieve some essentials and saw the camp by the manor from time to time, until he simply didn't. The camp was well used, bedroll slept in, fire pit smoldering, but all that was left there were shadows of the man and the pigeons.
Shadows? What do you mean?
I was trying to be dramatic.
Oh,
No, it's good. I like it. Yeah, it paints a word picture.
Well, we'll just change it. How about some hairs and some used TP,
Yeah, that's better.
some chicken bones, and some adult magazines. All right.
I felt like the sheriff was telling me that just now.
I feel like, the surprise twist ending is that I'm actually him.
Oh no, I knew it.
There goes one sock.
So, yeah. And somehow it shot into my window and onto my foot. I gained one life from you. All right, let's get into it. The Blassenville Manor was a plantation. It employed manual labor, and the workers that were unfortunate enough to end up there were well aware of the pigeons. For the workers, pigeons were an omen of impending doom. While most others never saw so much as a feather, the workers believed the pigeons to be hell-trapped souls of the plantation's original owners. And they were to be seen at sunset, when the sun beat red before the light vanished, because the gates of hell would then be open to grant dark souls a chance to once again wander and torment the living.
Love that game.
Cool. I like that.
So you might be asking yourself, who were the Blassenvilles?
They were wealthy travelers from the West Indies that set up shop in the South. With the onset of the Civil War, some died in battle, others just died. The rest seemed to wither in numbers, and eventually the manor was empty, ending with Elizabeth, the youngest daughter.
As Buckner finished his memory, the duo came across the car to retrieve the flashlight and head inside. Door creak noise. Now we're inside. All three of us and the two guys. Okay.
Oh man, I don't want to be in here.
Sorry, you're gonna have to. So Griswold immediately and frantically spots a blood trail leading to none other than his brother John, and he begins dramatically detailing the gore of the scene: the hatchet buried in the floorboards next to his deceased sibling, brains, blood, sadness just dripping from the scene. The hatchet was stuck into the pillow of Griswold's bedding, but he's cut off by the sheriff, who is now demanding a real answer. The courts would surely be more forgiving of the murder of his brother, John Branner, if his brother quit the bullshit and confessed to the mess to the sheriff himself. Grizz pleads and pleads. It was his damn brother, for crying out loud. And crying out loud he was. In addition to explaining the burden of his innocence, he was still grieving and reliving the horrific sight of his dead beloved brother, and his own attempted murder by the hands of his loved one. Sheriff Buckner investigates the scene and realizes there are no drag marks. Griswold has no blood on his clothes, and the footprints seem to line up more or less with the story. One pair up the stairs, one pair down. And God damn it, if this is real, well, Griswold has been through more than enough. Buckner keeps his cards to himself but states openly that this is too much for one man to endure, and offers some reassurance through the promise of further investigation, vouching for what he's seen, and an offer to head back outside so Griswold can get a brief rest before sunrise. As they work their way through the manor, the flashlight seems to dim and flicker as they get closer to the scene of John's alleged murder spot. The dusty prints are drifting with every footstep, unidentifiable biological matters along the way, until they come across the end of the upstairs hallway. John's prints are met with the footprints of what appears to be someone else, of a more slight stature. Maybe that of a woman. The toes are spread, the prints are dragging, and close to another. There are brains on the floor. Buckner puts the pieces together. The prints depart from each other after meeting, which means this other person used the hand axe on John, gave it to him, and then walked away. John was certainly dead as he descended down the stairs to meet his younger brother. Then the flashlight turns off. They hear a door creaking. They have to retreat. Buckner, as a bold man, doesn't fear a tango in the dark if it's with a human. But the flashlight's battery is new, and he knows in his heart that he wouldn't be fighting a living person. They rush down the stairs and out the door, and true to his word, he offers to stand guard as Griswold gets some brief sleep. It's now 4 a.m., and for the last time in his life, Griswold will awaken. And what I mean by that is the last time tonight, because he will also awaken tomorrow, probably. That's a spooky prank. As a spooky prank, I put it.
Yeah.
It got me really good, man.
Anyway, He's not waiting any longer for an answer and demands to the sheriff that they head in, but Buckner says he's already done so. And all the prints are gone. The dust has been disturbed, as if swept aside. There are no tracks, there's no longer any evidence to prove Griswold's innocence. Griswold's fucked. But Buckner has a plan in his back pocket. He will single-handedly identify the body, bring it to the county for inspection, and let the officials know he is on the case. And tomorrow, he and Griswold will secretly spend the night in the manor.
Man, that's a terrible idea.
Yeah. And even worse, then they pack dead John into Griswold's car.
Oh, God. This is the worst sheriff ever.
Yeah, kind of an oversight of the plan to say that he found him alone.
Yeah.
Anyway, on the way back into town, Buckner decides it's time to fill poor Griswold in on the dirty details of the cold Blassenvilles. As the Civil War rose and ended, the Blassenvilles were driven into poverty, until finally there were few workers and just 4 remaining sisters. One particular aunt, Celia, traveled to the plantation around this time, bringing her maid, whom she tormented and beat relentlessly. Miss Celia had plans of rekindling the proud and newly poor family's legacy, but just seemed to hold hate in her heart and save it for her maid, Joan, whom she beat regularly while tied to a tree for her own twisted amusement and release. And even eventually, the maid Joan and Celia both seemed to vanish. It wasn't until a year later when the youngest daughter, Elizabeth, came into town for the first time in quite some time that anyone had seen any Blassenville girls or workers. Elizabeth confirmed that the workers had left and it was just the remaining daughters. Aunt Celia hadn't been seen for a while, and her 3 sisters seemingly vanished in the night, but she didn't know what to do or where to go, so Elizabeth just stayed without her sisters, without her crew Aunt Celia or her abused maid, without workers for some sort of company. Elizabeth stayed in mortal terror, locked in a room at night, every night. She claimed to have found a secret room, and within that room, found her 3 sisters hanging and rotting.
Oh, no.
Yeah. She alerted the police, and they combed the manor, but it was in vain. They found nothing, minus the hatchet sunk into the door, with some of Elizabeth's blood and hair in it. The story tracked, but there were no leads, so Elizabeth just fled town. No signs of the dead sisters, no signs of her aunt or Joan, her abused maid. Driving the Branner brothers' car, Buckner advises that they stop by a man's secluded home. Jacob was an older gentleman that knew the secrets of the manor, for those secrets were tied to his soul by an agreed-upon sacrifice to the god, the big serpent, Damballa, which would allow for him to see and create dark magics. Old man Jacob was given the ability to convert the living into something beyond, pale, rotting, corpse-like beings that could only be slain by lead. But the story of Celia and her maid, Joan, was more important at this point. The conversation continued. Old man Jacob was almost 100 years old and spoke of disdain of Aunt Celia for Joan. For Joan was not white or black but of mixed race, and for this Celia loathed her. Old man Jacob was one of the few who knew the secrets to the god Damballa, but needed to proceed carefully, for sharing this information with someone unworthy would cause the god to send a little brother to dispose of a